Welcome to the Wellness Rebel Show, where you reclaim your health and tap into your body's healing power. I'm your host, Fatima, here to empower you with the knowledge and tools to take charge of your well-being. Whether you want to boost energy, improve mindset, or unlock vitality, this is your go-to source for practical advice and inspiration. It's time to step into your power and live a life of health and freedom. Welcome to the revolution. Welcome back to the Wellness Rebel Show. Today I have Jess. She's the founder of feelmoregooder.com. It's a natural health blog. And today we're going to talk all things natural health and probably mainly focus on light biology and all the things that she's been doing to keep herself healthy and live longer, right? Hi, Jess. How are you?
Hey, Fatima. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited for you to be here. So let's start off with your journey. How did you get here? What were your challenges back in the day and why you eventually, got to the natural health world?
Yeah, so I'll basically try to include all the things that are applicable to like my own health story. So I was a soccer player from a very young age. I've been an athlete my whole life. So from like age 4 to 5, I started playing soccer. And then as I got older, I got taller in middle and high school. And then I gave up soccer and started playing volleyball. And throughout all of those years, I was just super focused on performance and being a better athlete and eating and training in a way that would help me feel good to be a better athlete. I didn't really care for school and learning. I really just wanted to be on the court and on the field. So, and then in college, I was playing volleyball at Rutgers University. Right before that school year started, I decided to start a blog, which this was 2000. Having a website is what I told people I had. Blogging was still brand new. And it was really a place for me to kind of share like a training log. It was kind of a training diary. It was like, hey, here's the smoothie I made. Here's what I ran today. I did plyometrics, went to practice, whatever it was. And it's really all just continued to evolve since then. So I'm 37 now. I'm no longer a college athlete, but I feel like I still approach every day with kind of a training, like going to practice focus, and that makes me happy. It's been familiar to me since such a young age. I think when you start playing sports at such a young age, it's like, well, every part of my day includes some kind of training for that many years. So present day, I'm still doing I don't know, some of the same stuff, some of the some different stuff, some things I've picked up along the way. Yeah, and that really, alongside the sports training, I've really just deeply connected to nature for health. My blog is called Feel More Gooder because I focus on feeling good. So everything I'm doing has feeling good as the end goal. Yeah, that's a good kind of overview, I guess. If you want me to like zoom in on anything, I'm happy to.
Yeah, did you have any health challenges that you were trying to find answers for like along the way?
Yeah, so I'm glad it's funny because I think we tend to like block out hard times in our lives. I kind of forget that this happened, but I think it was around 2020 I started, and just as an asterisk, my just thinking about the body's intelligence level and healing capacity has changed so much since
Mhm.
the time in my life that I'm now referring to. But I was having basically a lot of gastrointestinal issues, bloating no matter what I ate, headaches, things that I think at the time I identified as like being histamine related. There was mold in the house I was living in. There's a lot of factors. And so yeah, I felt suboptimal, and I was doing everything, that I could think of, that I had known of my whole life, as far as fueling properly and um, just everything I could do. And I just couldn't seem to help myself. And so I went the functional medicine route. I did all the lab testing and um, got kind of a protocol for supplementation and, a plan that was supposed to help my body feel its best. Right. And I remember being very encouraged and very like, all right, this is it. I'm going to feel like Jess again. And to my surprise, like I followed the protocol and I didn't feel much better. I felt kind of the same. And so that was just a major low for me, because I thought, if I can't get a functional medicine doctor, it's one of the top guys in the country that practices. I remember thinking, if I can get his protocol for me, all feel better. And when I didn't, I was like, man, I mean, I think I was pretty depressed about it, to be honest. And I had to get myself out of that rut. And so I kind of just went back to learning. And also, I just started kind of trusting things that I knew to feel good. So I knew that going outside felt good. Maybe I didn't know why. Um, and then I also basically, I was taking so many supplements at the time
Mhm.
that I just intuitively was like, I think that I'm giving my body like it's too much. My organs have to filter these things out. So I basically, I look at it with like, reverence and understanding, and I appreciate that role in my life of going that route, because then it taught me what I know now. But I kind of threw it all out the window, and I kind of became my own guide for healing. And that's just been like my truth. I've never wanted to, you know, discredit any, practitioner that's helped me along the way or whatever, but really what has helped me unlock like feeling good has been this curiosity, honoring my intuition, and really reconnecting to nature. So, yeah, to answer your question, it's like many of us, feeling bad got me on this journey to like trying to figure out what components it would take to feel good. So, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's been a journey.
And I feel like, like the way you were saying telling your story is you thought that having that protocol from the top functional medicine practitioner was going to help you heal, and
Yeah,
then it's like you realize like, hey, I have this body has the innate ability to heal, and I'm going to figure it out myself, instead of kind of like giving that power to someone else, right? We thought that that protocol will help me for sure, right? So I think sometimes that's really the missing piece. It's like, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Devin. She, helps her clients get back home, right? It's
yeah,
like it's really
yeah,
like getting back into our intuition. Like, yeah, we might need some help along the way, but really it's within us to heal and kind of like figure out what works. Like we can't just be like, "Oh, she said that will make me feel better. I'll take that. I'll take that." right?
yeah. Yeah, oh my gosh, you hit the nail on the head. And I think unfortunately, like, that message is not articulated widely by most practitioners. I mean, the nature of it is they want to be employed and have a bunch of patients. So if you truly teach people to help themselves, you're not going to have as many people in your clinic. And I agree with you, like sometimes hand holding, whether you need it or not, it can be helpful. Or just like having somebody point and go, hey, have you looked at this? Have you looked at circadian rhythm? Have you looked at all these different components that maybe you weren't, I wasn't looking at them at the time. I fully was like, I'm just not taking the right supplements. I fully
Yeah.
held that belief. And it's just kind of funny. I would invite everybody to just like look back on your younger self, and like, she was doing her best. Like, I continue to do my best. Sometimes we trip up and we do things that we look back on and we're like, that was a waste of time. But it helps you like cement your belief system that you will now have, and that will give you a lot of confidence in what you're doing because you've lived it and you know what works and what doesn't work for you. So yeah, being your own advocate is like, that's kind of just been where I've landed now. It took me a long time to get here, and I know it's been a multi-year journey. So if
Yeah.
you feel like you're in the middle of it, yeah, just you'll find the other side eventually.
Right? Just keep going. It's a
Yep.
journey. It's not a destination, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So you mentioned circadian rhythm and all that stuff. So tell us, the point where you finally kind of like, oh, this might be one of the missing pieces. And then what did you learn about it, and what have you done to apply it into your life?
Yeah, I love this question. I love this question because it's like I talk so much about light on my Instagram page and on my blog now. Um, yeah, so the impetus for becoming more light curious, I'll call it, is when I did get that lab testing. So, again, thankful that I did go the functional medicine route, because I don't know that I would be where I am now had I not had this little seed planted. One of the things on my lab testing was low vitamin D. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, well, I know enough about, I'm an exercise science major, but I was like, so I don't know internal medicine like in its full complexity, but I was like, I know to get vitamin D, the best way is to go out in the sun. Like, I knew that, like most of us do. And so I just started doing that. I was like, all right, if I can just bring my vitamin D, it was very like elementary thinking, at least in my eyes. It was like, if I can bring my vitamin D levels up, I know that that means my immune system will be more robust. So whatever it's trying to fight, whether it's mold or
Hmm.
I had my lab testing had shown that I had activated Epstein-Barr virus. So there was all these immune burdens, right? And I was like, all right, well, what I'm doing now is not working. So I'm going to try to just focus on the vitamin D thing. And it was very organic. I literally just started sunbathing more and I
Yeah.
started feeling better. And it took me so long to be like, isn't this amazing that I literally just stopped doctor's orders and I started just going outside and I felt much better within weeks. Like it was blowing my mind. And then I also, all the while I have a blog that I'm running and I'm trying really hard to speak honestly about what I'm going through without bashing, professionals and people that dedicate their lives to helping people feel better and heal. Like I have a lot of compassion for people that dedicate their lives to that, but I just couldn't get over the fact that, like, well, when I went to the doctor and followed doctor's orders, that's not exactly what worked for me, and then going outside did. So I think along with that, because my vocation, this thing I've picked is sharing and blogging, I wanted to be able to explain what I was experiencing. So, like, I knew that the sun made me feel good and I knew the vitamin D part, but then I was just kind of curious about, like, I want to go deeper. I want to understand, like, just all of it. And so it's been like let's see, it's 2025 now. So it's been a 5 year just deep dive where I'm like swimming in all these different components of just how we require light as humans and how circadian rhythm, having a suboptimal circadian rhythm, will impair your body's ability to heal, which was
Hmm.
certainly something that I was not looking at in 2020 when I was trying to like get rid of symptoms, which are really my belief now is that those are just kind of cries for help from our body to make change or make adjustments and change the way we're living. So I guess kind of the rest is, I mean, it's all under the umbrella of like circadian rhythm and sunlight. That's just such a giant part of health. Nutrition is absolutely a part of health, but I feel like I did all the nutrition stuff great. And this is just the part that had huge implications that I hadn't looked at yet. So, yeah, yay for sunlight.
Sometimes the most simple things are the ones that actually move the needle. Like
Yeah.
we are focusing on the wrong things because it's like, oh, it's not the shiny object that's like, oh, it's not this big whatever, like biohacking tool or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, you want red light therapy? The sun, it's right there. It's free. Like, stop complaining that trying to get healthy is expensive because you have nature out there and it's free. All you have to do is get outside and be out there.
Oh my God. Well, you know that I agree with everything you just said. I'm glad that you made the point about the red light and the sunlight at any given time of the day. The sun is over half. It's like 52% red light. So like, are red light devices useful in some cases? Yes, I have a couple of them, but
Hmm.
you're right. It's like if you look at nature, if you look at it as like a hierarchy, like nature is number one. You're not going to be able to out mimic or like outsmart nature. That if you have
Right.
nature available, use that, and then the other things can
Hmm.
be used as like an adjunct or truly supplemental, which I say that like kind of like jokingly because I've abused supplements so much. If I'm being honest, like I tried to make them my foundation and then I was
Yeah.
ignoring the stuff that's actually foundational. So yeah, that's so funny. And then also like just along with what you said, like the simple stuff is really potent medicine. And I think part of the reason that we're not like we don't know that on like a wider scale is because like I can't sell sunlight, I can't sell ground, I can't sell you a cold tub or a sauna. Like I mean I can, right? The components, but like it's easier to just write a script or um do these things that are like, look at the shiny new supplement on the market that like is supposed to be the cure all. And it's like light. I'm hoping, through my blog that more people learn that like light and cold and these other modalities that nature gives us at different times of the year, like they do what people are taking pills to like try to create in their physiology. Like I call it free medicine. People
Yeah.
think I'm saying like a hyperbole or something. Like no, it literally, there's literature now that shows that different light wavelengths do what different pharmaceutical drugs do. And so, I mean, I just continue to be like, of course it's nature, like, of course. And so learning more about why our physiology benefits from this better light environment, more sunlight, darkness at night, all of that has been really cool. So I'm learning as I'm sharing too, which just the amount of growth. I know that you've got to relate to this because you're also interested in the same stuff. It's like I'm growing as I'm sharing, as I'm implementing. It's just there's so much happening that sometimes it's hard to keep up, but I
Yeah,
know that I'm developing and growing as a result of it.
definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's just how life goes, right? We can't really just like think, "Oh, I already know everything." Like some kids do, like my kid. I'm just kidding. Like all those like I'm like, "Dude, you have a long way to go." Uh So tell me, like hearing about, okay, sunlight also helps with gut health, like all these things. There's so many fascinating things that sunlight can actually help with. Can you share some of those with us?
Yeah, I'll try to be kind of concise because I know I can. It's just out of enthusiasm that I just start rambling about light. I'll give you maybe some kind of bullet points up front and then I can kind of maybe give more on each one. So you mentioned gut
Yeah.
health. So getting sunlight on your stomach, actually, there's studies that show that it changes your microbiome. So, we're popping probiotics and eating fermented foods, heck yeah, maybe probiotics where it makes sense, all of that. But again, those are supplements. This is the foundation, so getting sunlight on your stomach is going to help any gastrointestinal issues. Another thing about the red light that's in sunlight is that depending on where on your body it is and how dense the tissue is, it can penetrate your skin from like 6 to 10 centimeters, which is a lot. So if you think about the light literally touching your organs, people would be like, that's not, we just think that it stops on our skin. So that was very cool for me to learn. And that would make sense, rationally, how the light would be benefiting like your gut if you're just getting it on your stomach. It's going to help your hormones. So getting morning sunlight is important to start this cascade of hormones, we call it, I guess, in the circadian health world, where light enters. It's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It's I believe on the anterior portion of the hypothalamus in the brain, and it's basically the master timekeeper. So SCN is an abbreviation for it. So when the light is hitting this part of your brain, I think of it as like a stopwatch. It's like it's starting this timer of like telling your physiology and your body, again, highly intelligent, kind of this orchestra happening. Hey, it's daytime now. It's time to create cortisol. It's time to be awake. It's time to create all of these different sex hormones. So that's a whole nother chunk of the sunlight thing, right? We're doing so much to balance hormones and we're
Hmm.
totally overlooking our light environment, which again, at least through my lens now, like that's the foundation. So, and again, I was overlooking it. So if you're like, wow, never heard this in my life. Yeah, I was the same. I mean, it was the same for me. And it blew my mind just to know that I could help my hormones by paying attention to light. So yeah, gut health, hormones, neurotransmitters, so mood lift. People get into seasonal depressions and people just have low mood and low dopamine in general. And so they're, as a culture, it's like we're developing these addictive habits, these quick fixes all the time to feel, these hits of good feelings when it's because we're not getting enough light.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
really, I mean, that's not 100% of health, but it's a giant, gaping hole that we need to like correct if we want to correct, mood and all these things. um and really every other system in the body. So Dr. Catherine Clinton is one of the leading researchers on circadian and quantum health, and she talks about how there's not a system in the body that is not impacted by light. So if you're kind of wondering what the sunlight's going to help, what's really going to help everything, and it's not just my convenient, answer, but and like even like I was mentioning earlier about your immune system is
Hmm.
huge. So I posted some content a while back that said something to the effect of like, if you don't ever feel good, if you just like feel bad all the time and you're fatigued and you don't ever go outside, those things are not like just random. Like it's
Right.
totally because we're disconnected from nature. So
Hmm.
really, like, light to me is, if there's like a panacea or there's this one thing that you can do, like that's it. I'm not saying that's all that I do in a day, but it's definitely the priority. And
Yeah.
yeah, who doesn't want to be in a good mood and feel good? That for me is my goal. So I'm like, I'm accomplishing that by doing that. So that's why I prioritize it.
Right? See, we were meant to be naked.
Yep. That's so true. I mean, I think we're, as a result of like modernity and just this world we live in, and I'm a part of it. I'm not acting like I live totally off the grid, but like somebody that just prioritizes time outside seems strange, but it's like this is where we came from though. So at one point in
Mhm.
time it would have been this cold outside and we wouldn't have had this giant warm house and these giant amazing coats and stuff. And so humans learn to adapt. And
Yeah.
oh, by the way, they're probably being more active because they're collecting wood and they're doing all these things outside. They're breathing fresh air. They're getting the phytoncides from trees that are like shown to be anti-cancer, like all these things. They're literally just getting free medicine just because they're outside
Right?
all the time. And so we really just like deprive ourselves from all of it by being inside all the time. I try to break up my days with outdoor breaks all the time,
Mhm.
because I just
Yeah.
know what it's giving me. So, and I know that you do too, but yeah, it's goodness.
Yeah, my uniform actually for this whole pregnancy is I didn't buy any maternity clothing, so I'm just like wearing my shirts and like it's like all up to here, like my belly's just exposed and I'm just in my underwear all the time and I'll go outside, walk up and down the stairs, gather wood and all this stuff like in the cold and my husband's always like, "Aren't you cold?" Like, "Yeah, it's cold, but this is my cold exposure for the day." And then sunlight on my, the naked parts, like whatever. And he's so
Yeah.
used to it now. Even when his friends come, I'm like, "I don't care. This is my uniform. I'm not gonna get dressed."
This is what I'm. Yeah, I'm getting my cold. I'm
Yeah.
getting my light. This is important. Yes, I think
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
doing it right. Don't ever change. Keep doing that.
So yeah, go ramble more about light biology because I really feel like, like you said, like we're really now like in this modern day where, from the house, go into the car, go into another building if you're working at an office, and go back in the car and then go back home. So that's, like no wonder why more
Yeah,
and
we're
more
like so
people are,
deprived, right?
yeah, so deprived. More and more people are always tired. They don't understand why they're tired and they're like asking for what supplement to take. And some people are so quick to say
Mm-hmm.
vitamin B12, right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
go ahead, go for it.
Or also they just or they supplement vitamin D, right? Maybe
Hmm.
they do that, or
Yeah.
they drink more caffeine to cover it up. And I think it's important, at least for me in my experience. Like I personally drink coffee. I'm intentional about it. I don't think it ruins my life. I've done periods of time where because I exist in the online world and I know that many things are totally villainized. And I would just
Hmm.
say, always give yourself permission to make your own rules. It's easy to get out of control with things. I've had to do that to myself where I'm like, am I relying on this too much or that kind of thing? So, yeah, there's a lot to say about light. Some things that pop up for me. So, you mentioned energy. I'm glad you said that. So, we as humans get energy from three different things. One of them is food, one of them is the sun, and one of them is the earth, which is why you probably see people on the internet. I'm one of them that talk about grounding, that talk about being outside. It's not just because we like it, even though I do like it. I'm very intentional about like, I'm getting energy. I am getting
Yeah.
energized by these things. And so on an energetic note, if you have fatigue, that's actually, if you go back to the story that I was telling earlier about my own personal health journey, that was one of my symptoms besides GI stuff is I was really tired all the time. And so when I started taking that low vitamin D nudge, like taking action on it, that's the first thing I noticed is I had so much energy back from being outside more. And I now understand that. At the time, I didn't really get what was going on, but it's because you're getting electrons from the sun. We get free electrons from the earth. That's a little bit on like energy and combating fatigue with sunlight and being in nature. Another thing that stands out to me is just in terms of like chronic illness. If you're like me, I wonder things like, how come not everybody for all of time has been sick like we're sick now? Like people have all kinds of autoimmune conditions, allergies, like all these things that used to not exist. They used to not be in the literature at all. So like what happened? Sure, you could say glyphosate. Absolutely. There's plenty of, environmental contaminants, but I always felt like it just, I don't know. Is that it? Okay, well then if I eat all organic food and all of this, is it because I'm breathing it from the air? Like I do a lot of thinking about what the truth is about these things. And when I learned this thing, I was like, oh, that actually makes a ton of sense. So at the end of the 1800s, so like 1890, early 1900s is when we see diseases like dementia, Alzheimer's, diabetes, I believe. These are when those diseases first start showing up. So like we're noticing as a populace, a lot of people are having these issues or being diagnosed with these diseases. What also syncs up with that timeline is that artificial light was created on a mass
Mm.
scale. So you might think, okay, well, who cares? Well, who cares is like the fact that our circadian rhythm is, that means really, if you want to simplify it, we're meant to be in sync with the sun. So if we
Mm-hmm.
now have an ability to have bright light in the middle of the night when never in human history we've had it, it does make sense that our biology would be like, whoa, like, and so
Yeah.
when you have artificial light exposure after dark or even before sunset, your blood sugar is elevated because your body, and again, I wouldn't see it as bad as much as it is like your body is super intelligent. It's making you become awake because
Yep.
you are in the bright light. Because in like the 1800s, if there was bright light, it probably meant there's a meteor like coming down to the planet, so like we just have this onslaught of light stressors now that's so normal. And if you can mitigate that even a little bit, then you're doing good. Or going to bed a little earlier, getting red lights for your home. And I don't suggest, perfectionism with it. I just think that you'll definitely notice a difference, like deeper sleep. And if you know anything about sleep, then if you're sleeping better and deeper, then everything in your body is going to be working better. You're going to be repairing. And especially if you're trying to heal from something, you need to like protect your sleep, like, yeah, one of your top priorities. So yeah, those, so energy, the chronic illness connection with artificial light. I mean, I like to, for my own brain, I like to think of simple things about why things are important. And one of them is like all life forms on earth depend on the sun.
Yeah.
So why would something that we all need, every life form, not just humans, animals, plants, it's not just killing us and keeping everything else alive. Like that sounds
Yeah.
insane. So just, doing some critical thinking about things like that can help you realize that like the sunscreen industry, the chemical sunscreen industry, what studies show that you shouldn't be putting those chemicals on your skin and they can give you burns, they make you more photosensitive, all these things. That's a whole nother kind of rabbit hole, but it's a gigantic industry connected to the oil industry. So, regardless of how conspiratorial you get in your thinking, like that's just the fact of it. So that made me skeptical right away of that.
Yeah.
And then I've just always intuitively, I grew up in South Florida and I've just always intuitively been a sun seeker. Like all the healthy people I knew were outside and they were super tan. And then like later in life, I kind of got into the clean beauty industry, as a result of blogging, and everybody's wearing sunscreen all the time. And I was like, wait, I don't think we're supposed to be, like I just remember being like, wait, I don't fit in. I
Yeah.
don't do that. You're not going to talk me into that. Cause I just intuitively was like, no, I'm pretty sure we need the sun.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot there, but just, I don't know, everybody thinks differently. There's so much science now on why we need the sun. If you're curious, like I put together it's in progress really, but there's plenty on there already. It's a Google Doc that just has a list of studies on these different topics. And it's in my Instagram link tree. But yeah, and some of it will surprise you because it's just so different from what, mainstream wants you to believe. So
Yeah. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes because that would
yeah, I'll
be
make sure I send it to you.
great to
Yeah.
have. Yeah. But yeah, totally. They demonized the sun, and now, everyone thinks that the sun is what causes us to get skin cancer and all these things, when in fact, it's actually very healing. And of course, there's a difference, right? There's safe sun exposure. You don't want to burn and get blisters, obviously.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I'm never suggesting. So a word that I like to use with sun is harmony. We want to be in harmony with nature and sunlight. And so people love to accuse me of having an irresponsible message. And that's so funny to me because I'm like, it's always about being in sync with nature and harmony. And that also means listening to the signals your body gives you when you've had enough sun. And your body does give them to you. And oh, by the way, when you put chemical sunscreen on your skin, so that would be non-mineral sunscreen. When you put that on your skin, it actually anesthetizes your skin, so you're not going to feel like you're burnt. So then you will be going beyond your limit. So again, you're in total disharmony by doing that. You should have put a t-shirt on or sought shade. Shade is always my first, like, had enough, go inside, or clothing. Like mineral sunscreen, I like have it and I like never end up using it because one, I have a lot of melanin, I have a lot of built-in sun protection, and then also I use all these other options of ways to just again be in sync with nature when I've had enough sunlight. But I just have a higher, I think, quota than most people. But yeah, I'm glad you said that. It's like, and animals do that too. Like you'll see pictures of animals in like the Sahara that are like under a tree because the UV there is probably like 12 and they've had enough. And it's not to say that you can't have too much, but the science shows that we as a populace are very vitamin D deficient through the natural synthesis pathway, which is sunlight, and we're sunlight deficient. Like so we need to go that direction of more sun, in my opinion, and gradual buildups is always a good idea.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on, I know, there's like two camps on it, like vitamin D supplementation, in case, like, let's say you're in the Pacific Northwest. I know that you can still get like the sun even if it's cloudy, right? They say still go outside even if it's cloudy because you're still getting that sun. Maybe it's not like the the D or like the sol, because you have to seek out the solar noon or like for the D optimization. But when a lot of people say no, don't take vitamin D supplements because it's a hormone, and then others say it's fine just as long as you're not taking too much and causing an imbalance in your body.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this. And as I'm talking, I'm gonna walk into I have to plug my computer in, which I started with a full battery. Apparently my battery is struggling, but
no worries.
Yeah, this is a great question. I'll start by saying I personally don't supplement vitamin D. And one of the reasons is I have a light lamp that emits UVB light, which is the wavelength in sunlight that creates the vitamin D. So when I want to supplement, like that's my supplement, is interfacing with, albeit an artificial light source, but I would rather do that than take the form that most people are taking. So I would say if you want to deep dive on this topic, I would look up Jack Kruse vitamin D. He talks for just ad nauseum in his blog posts and way more science than I could ever detail, but about why like vitamin D is just kind of a marker that's related to sunlight exposure. It's important. Yes, we need it. Yes, in some parts of the world, it probably has a significant use. And also I would say even before you reach for the supplement, I would be looking for foods that are naturally containing vitamin D. So, cod, like fish sources, and mushrooms are a source of vitamin D. So I would be looking to those first. My problem in general with the vitamin D, just like impulse to pop it, is that people instead of addressing their light environment at all, they're basically like shortcutting and looking for any excuse. Now, if you're in a situation where you literally don't have the light, there's plenty of parts of the world where you don't have UVB for part of the year. So that means you're not creating vitamin D when you're in the sun. You can stockpile it during the summer to get you through the winter. I would just say people use it incorrectly most of the time. I would rather see more people outside seeking that as much as possible. Like you said, we were talking before the call started just about being outside. Like if it's cold outside, okay, cool. Then you're also getting the benefit of cold exposure, which more people I think need to learn about that and not be so afraid of it. But so hopefully that answered your question. I know that people have their like opinions about that, so I totally get that it's like and doctors are recommending it too. So I'm swimming against the stream here. Sorry, I'm still here trying to juggle the.
No worries.
Plugging the computer in. How do you feel about vitamin D? I would love to hear what you think.
So with mineral balancing, they, recommend taking it.
Yep.
I at some point like I'll take some here and there, but I'm not like consistent with taking it because I'm getting outside sun. Like I'm literally just like listening to my body. Like I don't need this. I'm not gonna take it, you
Yep.
know? But and I know they say there's like different forms, right? They're like the D3 is supposedly better than the D, and
Yep.
you just not have to do high dose. I know because there's people who really like take too much, and then like there has to be. I feel like there has to
Yep.
be some kind of balance, and like you said, let's seek
Yep.
out the foods first as your source of vitamin D, and you know go from there. Because I know a lot of people usually when they get tested are like, oh, I'm low on vitamin D, what can I do? And
Yeah. So
maybe some
another
of
thing
them.
I'm sorry,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. Something else I just thought of with vitamin D. This was like a big learning point for me that made me kind of take the pressure off of myself of keeping just robust vitamin D all through the winter. So, melatonin, most people hear that in regards to sleep. Indeed, when we release and optimize melatonin, we're going to sleep better, deeper. It also is involved in detox and estrogen metabolism, all these other things in the body. So, very important. In the winter, we're meant, if I understand it correctly, we're meant to be like optimizing melatonin versus during the summer, you can focus on optimizing vitamin D, and that would make a lot more sense. The reason is
Yeah.
because melatonin docks to the same receptor site in the body as vitamin D. So, if you're trying to stay healthy and well, and you're curious about what nature would intend for like how we're supposed to stay healthy, I would say, so what would that mean? That would mean during the winter when the days are shorter, you do your best to like make your life cram into those, shorter days, or just don't do as much. It's a time to slow down, which I hate hearing that. I'm an Energizer bunny. It's always hard for me to slow down. And just honor more darkness at night. So having red lights around your house that are not going to suppress melatonin production. So learning that helped me go, oh, well, I'm not meant to like be, maxing out my vitamin D. That
Yeah.
said, I do want to stay well, and not get sick over the winter like a lot of people do. And really, it's this UVB lamp that I have is for me kind of like an experiment. I can totally see a point maybe 5 years from now, even maybe sooner, where I'm like, I actually don't even think I need this, because with each year that goes by, I'm like, I think that just nature is giving us what we need.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I see it, and I think that yeah, something that Jack Cruz talks about is that the supplementation is just suboptimal for a lot of different reasons. I think, and I'm not positive on this, but there's a connection between, I think that, this probably applies to more than just vitamin D, but when you're supplementing, like you said, you can take too much. When you're doing supplementation that doesn't actually make sense for what your body needs, you're making your body and your physiology more susceptible to like non-native EMFs and all these other things that are people are concerned about, and I understand why they are. He made some connection on that where I was like, oh, well, dang, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to like have higher levels. And then Dr. Alexis Cowan is another. She's brilliant, and she educates on this too. She talks about how she has a lot of content on why just getting your vitamin D tested is not the full picture. It
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of how people talk about thyroid and just like
Yeah.
you need more than just that little snapshot. So yeah, and I would say like if I'm at like the 39th latitude in Kansas City, and we didn't have UVB light for a couple of months, and ideally if you've had a good summer in the sun, you have stockpiled your vitamin D, and you perhaps don't need to even do what I'm doing with the lamp. I kind of just do it because I have it, and
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I'm definitely still like a guinea pig experimenter person. So I'm like, I don't know. I'll see how I
Yeah.
feel, and I haven't gotten sick. I mean, I haven't been sick in a long time, so you could say it's that. I think it's just because I'm outside a ton, and during the winter, when you're not getting the UVB, I would still recommend getting outside as much as possible because you're getting the infrared and the red light, which are incredibly healing for the mitochondria and your cells and, again, all the systems in your body. And then you're also getting UVA, which is related to many things, but the neurotransmitters, so the improved mood and like thyroid function and sex hormones, all of that. So even though you're not getting the vitamin D, you're still getting,
Yeah.
winter sun is still, you still want to be outside. So,
Right.
yeah,
And
vitamin
that's
D. I
really,
know people, yeah, go ahead.
no, to me too, like a lot of people, a lot of times people say, oh, it's too cold outside. I don't want to go outside because it's cold. And that's why they always say that there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad gear, right? It's like,
Yeah,
who cares if it's just your face getting the sunlight? If you're really cold and get, bundle up or whatever and try to expose some parts of your skin. Like to
totally.
me, to me, getting that morning sun in the morning, even if it's 29 degrees outside, is really important. Like, I'll go out there and get that sun on my eyes before I ever, like turn my phone back on from airplane mode or whatever
Yeah.
and check emails. But yeah, it almost seems like the way you were saying it too, like we probably should think about our vitamin D stores kind of like seasonally, right? It should change, right? Like if you
Yep.
test yourself in the spring and summer, and then if you test yourself in the winter, there should probably be different ranges of optimal because, like you said, we're not really getting that needed like race to make the vitamin D in our body,
Yep.
right?
So yes. So if anybody's listening and they're like, I wanna know more, I wanna read, I'll do the reading. Yeah, I would just definitely suggest Dr. Alexis Cowan and then Jack Cruz because just like you said, Fatima, I feel like this is how I think. So when I'm like when things seem complicated or like you're talking about vitamin D supplementation and dosages, I'm like that's where just anymore. I'm like I just don't play that game anymore. I really love how nature just reminds me of like the simplicity of things. So, and yeah, I'm like human too. Like I see shiny things also and I get interested or whatever, but I always benefit from being like, oh, well, what's happening in nature? So there's so many examples, right? Well, first of all, there's the seasons and what trees
Mhm.
are doing each time of the year. Like expecting trees to have the dense chlorophyll they have during the summer in the winter would be so unnatural. So even
Yeah.
just thinking about that fact, that's something that we've noticed since we were children. If you think about humans that way, to your point, I think absolutely that feels true to me. And that's kind of how I do my own health stuff now is like, that feels true. I'm going to do that, like, and that really has benefited me, the simplicity of just kind of noticing patterns in nature and then playing with it and making adjustments as needed or whatever. And if it's not working, then I'll toss it. But more, I mean, I don't need, there's never been a time where I try to mimic nature and then it's been wrong. I just
Yeah.
think it's a lot of unlearning that we have to do or things we're not hearing from doctors or society. Again, like from the, when I was telling my own story, like no doctor told me to go in the sun. Like I had to
Yeah.
figure that out and kind of thank goodness I did because now it's just such a genuine like you can't talk me out. That's what helped me, like, and I know it is. So like you just get more confident in things when you've done like the reps with it, and like how bears will hibernate. Like there's a ton of examples in nature. So bears, I bet you, I mean, I don't know that bears have the same hormones we do, but they're a mammal, right? Mammals have similar pathways. Like they probably are doing the melatonin thing during the winter. You know what I mean? They probably don't have. I think they might lose their coat partially, or because I know they lose a lot of body mass. Anyways, it's just an example of like I do think with each season our physiology is going to change, and if we're trying to make it be the same thing all the time, that's when we run into issues. And it's one of the big reasons I think people get sick during the winter. There's a
Hmm.
couple things there. They're inside more, right? Because like you said, it's cold, so they're not getting the fresh air or the sunlight. Definitely not the grounding. And then they're trying to do their summer schedule during December, so they have bright lights on until 10 p.m. and their body is then they're sick. And like I'm like that's literally
Yeah.
the recipe for sickness is just like don't be in sync with nature at all and
Yeah.
just act like you're going to outsmart your biology, which it'll catch up to you and you'll learn the lesson. And but I just hope people make the connection, like that's what your body just doesn't just hate you and then it decided to make you sick. Like you probably weren't honoring something, and
Yeah,
the body
totally.
desperately needs to recover. And so the only way to slow you down is to make you sick. So
Yep,
yeah.
exactly. And yeah, you're right. There's so many, I've noticed, like, you know, with us as well, like you said, we haven't really been sick this whole year, even in the winter time. But like I do notice in a lot of mom groups that I'm in, so many are always posting, we've been sick for how many months straight, like all these things. And I'm just like,
Oh yeah.
why? Like, I don't understand. But yeah, you're right. It's probably just that disconnection from nature, not honoring their, whatever their body's telling them, because we tend to fill our schedules to the brim, right? Like, oh, we have to be
Yeah.
go go go, and not
Yep.
slowing down when winter time is the time to slow down. And I did notice this a few years ago. My daughter had her winter showcase for her dance, and the schedule was so hectic that I didn't get sick, but I get a cold sore. I'm like, oh, this
Yeah.
is stress, duh.
Yeah.
But yeah. And
Yeah.
then after that, I was just like, I'm not gonna volunteer this time. I'm gonna like let the other parents do it. And I was just kind of like more relaxed and stuff like that. And I didn't get any cold sore, or so I'm like, yeah, it's definitely that stress that we put on ourselves, and then not going outside, and then thinking that your body hates you and it's broken, then you're gonna like just keep going on with the cycle, right? That's
Yep.
why you're like, oh yay, we're over it, and then the next week you're sick again, or your kids are sick again, because
Yeah.
you're doing the same thing. It's like
Yep.
you can't expect changes to happen when you're still on the same train that got you there.
That's it. I mean, that's totally it. So I think that something that I went through that I think is just like being radically accountable for just your choices in your life. And I think so many people are stuck in this loop of just blaming what's happened. I mean, some people call it like victim consciousness or whatever you
Yep.
want to call it. If
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
constantly blaming other things and people for where you are, I would, and by the way, I've been there, I've done that, but like, there's a different way you can do it where you're just like so accountable with yourself. And it doesn't mean you beat yourself up, by the way. It just means that you're like, you kind of, my hope is to kind of give people these like additional ingredients that they probably haven't been looking at. Like a lot of people know,
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I get sick. And so I'm going to take, just thinking of what a mainstream approach would be, I'm going to take vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, maybe elderberry or whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm not even saying those things don't have a place, even though nowadays I would look for like whole food sources of vitamin C and things like that. But people aren't even looking at like light environment or like even what you said, stress. Like people would be like, I had a really intense work week, and then they get sick and they still just don't, or they're like, oh, I had some cocktails and that's why I got sick. And it's like, okay, yes, that's part of it. But also, like, there's all these other glaring things that are within your grasp to like change. So this made me think of, I was hosting a networking event. This is probably like 6 months ago. And I was talking about light environment, and I was talking about when I say light environment, by the way, I just mean natural light exposure, and then your nighttime light environment, which ideally is not bright light, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe red light if you're more, I guess, advanced or further along in like the circadian path. But there was a mom sitting next to me, and everybody at this event was very receptive, even though it can be very confronting for somebody like me to be like, hey, the reason you probably have these chronic issues is because you're up on your phone until midnight every night and you have a
Mm-hmm.
blue lit screen. I know that
Yeah.
that is very hard to hear, because you're like, I love doing that. That's my I have 2 kids, and
Yeah.
that's my decompression. That's what a lot of moms tell me. And like, first of all, if there's a better way to do it, you can turn your phone screen red. There's so many things. So I'm not saying don't take you time, because as you know, Fatima, I'm a huge proponent of like you time. But
Yeah.
this lady next to me, she was she's a mom, and you could tell she's just a fast-paced, stressed kind of lifestyle, or at this point in her life where she's just kind of maxed out. And so I was talking about having a more circadian friendly light environment at home at night. And I just like triggered something in her, and she was like, that's not reasonable to, expect me to like not have lights on after a certain hour. And,
Yeah.
you know, everybody else was very like, she was kind of being argumentative about it. And everybody else was being very like chill and just receptive. And so I believe my response was something to the effect of like, you know what? I'm not a mom yet. I've lived a couple lives in my life. I used to be a stepmom, but I'm not a mom, so I can't even act like I can relate. However, if I were a parent and you're asking me what I would do, I know that you're at the helm of the ship. So you can start making different rules if you decide they're important to you, and even taking baby steps. I'm not even saying changing your whole life overnight. And so it was just very interesting. And then she didn't say anything else. There were several other moms in the group that were like, yeah, I started doing this, and then yeah, now my kids know when they go in the bathroom they turn on this red light or whatever. And I was like, okay, thank goodness. Like, because I kind of felt like I was on an island by myself trying to talk to a mom, and I was a little, out of place. But I know that that's the whole, that and just like the whole, like, the sun causing cancer thing. Those are the two biggest like trigger points, I think, for people, where they just can't even have a conversation anymore. um
Yeah.
so I understand that like being confronted with the information is a lot, but I mean, I would just invite everybody to like the simplicity of like nature's giving us what we need. And that always feels like a relief to me, because health for a while felt very complicated and very like I had to do certain things perfectly every day or else I wasn't healing. And now I don't feel like that at
Mhm.
all. I feel like I actually have a ton of flexibility, and I can go out and play volleyball, really late one night a week. I can go out with friends one night a week, and I'm totally good because I have this like strong foundation. And
Yep.
so, anyways,
Yeah.
that's just been my path. I know we're all different, but
No, that thing you shared was funny because it reminds me of this little short clip that I saw on Instagram, and I reshared it. And it's basically like this doctor like saying, "Oh, if you want to sleep better, stop using your phones 2 hours before bed." And they're like, "Huh?" No, it's like, okay, how about 1 hour before bed? And everyone's like, no. How about like 5 minutes while you're brushing your teeth and you don't have your phone on your hand before bed? And like, like all these things. And they were just all like, when am I supposed to look up my symptoms on WebMD? Not at nighttime. I'm just like, oh my God, this is so hilarious. Because it's true though. Like there's people who want to find answers, or, like they're seeking help. And then when you say something, but they don't agree with it, they get very defensive, right? It's like, well, that's the only time I get to myself. So that's my time. It's like, well, then get either, like you said, turn your screen red or get blue light blocking glasses. I don't know. But yeah, I think I used to before back in the day, like, yeah, when I was breastfeeding, like that's what I would do, like have the phone. But then eventually I'm like, well, this is like not smart. And so it's like, I'll just sleep, like sleep with my baby while they're breastfeeding. Why do I have the need to like keep
yeah.
myself awake? You can sleep while you're breastfeeding, right? And so eventually, like after the first kid, it's just like no phones in the bedroom,
Hmm.
like keep it out there on airplane mode, all these things. Yeah, I know sometimes people think it's such a hard change to make,
Yeah.
but if you think about it, you have to choose your heart. You can't complain the next day that you slept like shit or that you didn't sleep because that was all you who did that to yourself, right?
Totally. Yeah, and there's a couple like Sarah Kleiner on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, Carrie Bennett. There's a couple of women that I've seen them, show plenty of content, whether it's on stories or reels or whatever. Like Sarah has a young toddler, and she's like, I'm up with my kid. This is what I'm doing. Like I'm putting on, and she's like, like again, it's just worth saying because I used to be in the perfectionist mindset with it, and even though the light rules can seem very, you have to do this and that, like I'm not suggesting stress, but she does a good job of just being like, I try to grab my blue light blocking glasses, and I sometimes I don't, and then I
Mm-hmm.
feel like crap the next day or whatever. And like it's not about, it's just, it's like they're really just wellness tools if you really think about, like these are
Yeah.
just, they're more things that make more sense through the lens of nature and what our biology is like built to interface with, that are worth, playing with, because I think if anybody else has a similar path to me, like I just thought it was I wasn't taking the right supplements, and it's like no, I just think
Yeah.
I had no regard for just these things that, you know, I don't mean to be like a broken record, but there's so much science on like artificial light at night, increasing your risk of all of these different not fun things. And same thing with being sunlight deficient and all these things. And so you don't need to get afraid, but I would just say, like, if you're like wondering, like you said, people treat it like it's so inconvenient. Well, if
Yeah.
somebody told you there was poison in the bread that you were feeding your family, you would just not eat the bread, right? Like you would do it differently. That's how I look at this too, is just going, oh, okay, I might just change how I'm doing that. And then I think you, like you said, it's like you can gradually make the changes. Like I've
Yeah.
gradually made the changes. I didn't just blow up all the light bulbs and just like, run out of the house screaming. Like you can, if
Right.
you have the financial resources. Heck yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's funny how like nowadays I like would love to have more money for things like that, like not for extravagant things. It's just for making the home that I'm in like be more, I'm really connected to nature, which is funny because it really just means going outside, so there's really nothing I need to do to the home kind of thing. But
Yeah.
um yeah, I know that this, it can be like triggering for people, but I just think what am I trying to say? I just think, yeah, I'm encouraged to hear that you do a lot of the same stuff too. And really, if you do it for long enough, it doesn't feel, it's just automatic. Like, and then when you're around bright lights at night, like if you're in a store, I was in Target after sundown. I had to go to Target. It was probably like a week ago. I couldn't believe how bright it was in the store. Like I just am not used to doing that. And I was like, there's no surprise why people that work the night shift have like a shorter life
Mm-hmm.
expectancy, and which is so
Yeah.
sad. Again, I have so much compassion for that, but it's because like your body's not going to heal when it's getting blasted with bright light because it perceives it as a threat. So anyways, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know when we built our house, I at first I was like, can we not get LED bulb, like that, because it's required, right? Now incandescent light are back, right? They
Yes,
unbanned
that's
it.
what I heard.
Although
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can still buy them before, even if it was banned.
I know,
So
that's
what
what I
I did
heard.
was, yeah, what I did was our LED. I was the one. I'm like, I'm gonna buy them, and I made sure that it was adjustable, so they're all set at 2700 Kelvin, even during the, like, it's just 2700 Kelvin. It's not the 6500 Kelvin that's like obnoxious. But I we barely turn it on,
Hmm.
and then I have incandescent light bulbs in the bathroom, and I'm like, that's the only light that will turn on at night.
Yep.
And all our lamps have the incandescent light bulbs. And then for the dining, it's I got those, the health bulb, like it changes. It has like that
Oh,
spectrum, like the daytime. It's
yep.
LED, but it's like has that different spectrum. And so every time I come home, and if the all the head like overhead lights are on, I'm like, turn it all off. And but
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it's like, yeah, you just have to do, like you said, do what you can. You don't have to change all your light bulbs at once. If you want, you can have one lamp, change it to an incandescent or a red bulb for nighttime. Like you can still read with that. And then eventually invest in, if you like to read at night, invest in the no blue and green spectrum reading lights. Like
Yeah.
there's so many little things you can do. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. And it's not like, it's like, don't judge yourself if you're using the bright lights at night. It takes time to change. My husband
Yeah.
likes to watch TV at night because he's used to, like, growing up, he had a TV, in his bedroom, which I know we don't have TV in our bedroom, but he likes to watch TV. And I'm always like, how do you fall asleep? Because he falls asleep so fast. If
Yeah.
I watch TV with him at night, I'm like laying in bed, like, oh my God, when am I going to go to sleep?
Yeah, your body's like,
It's
we're
so
awake, sorry.
yeah, I'm like, how are you asleep? I'm awake. So now I just always make sure, I try my best to wear my blue light blocking glasses if I
Hmm.
decide to hang out with him while he watches TV. Because I don't like to watch TV, but he likes, that's his downtime. And I'm like,
Yeah,
whatever, I'll hang out with you. But yeah,
yeah.
I
Yeah,
always
I like
tell
to
even my
preserve it.
kids.
Yeah. I'm sure
No,
your
go
kid, I'm
ahead.
sure I feel like your kids are probably just like like dialed in, like in the healthiest, best way of just like you're the example to them. Like I'm like already, it's like I already know what they're. I just that's great because that's I think it's powerful to just lead by example, right? You like live a certain lifestyle and they just kind of adopt it because they're your kin. So like, no, but I was like, I like that you said like there's a lot of different options. Like I actually don't even like turn the lights on. I just have like a little lamp I bring around with me that has
Mhm.
red light and like
Yeah.
it costs I think like $40. And so I mean, I don't know. Like to me, that's so worth it. So I don't even have to really worry about replacing bulbs again. Yes, you totally could. And then another funny thing I just thought of is that I was visiting my parents. Maybe this was 6 months or a year ago, and in their kitchen, there's just this like giant bright light. Like it's too bright. Like whoever put it in, I'm like, what are we doing here? And it was like 8 at night or like way past sundown, and my mom or my dad or somebody had it on, and I literally was like, that's killing us. Like I was being so dramatic, and so I just want to call myself out on that and also just say you don't have to, don't let it stress you out like it did with me, because I was so at that time like deep in the research of the artificial light that just like with anything, I just was hyper aware of how detrimental it was. And so then it was stressing me out. And so anytime I was around that light, like I definitely went through a phase where I was just maybe a little too rigid. And I say too rigid only because it was causing me stress, and that's also not good. So just give your knowledge is power, but then also like when you try to implement stuff, you don't have to be crazy about it. I've been crazy about it, and then that didn't feel good, and I made everybody around me uncomfortable probably, or whatever. But people are learning at their own pace, and this will be brand new information to some people, and be patient with yourself while you try to figure it out and all of that. So hopefully I
Yeah. Hey.
touched on what you wanted me to there with just like light and stuff.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think there's an account on Instagram. I don't know the name of the human that runs it, but I'm pretty sure it's called Brighter Days, Darker Nights. And I
Mm.
just like that as a phrase. If you're trying to think about circadian rhythm, it's like we need more brightness and then we need darker nights. Like I like that's very simple. My brain likes that a lot. And then I think you mentioned this earlier, but just also reminding people that if you go outside, even like it's kind of overcast here in Kansas City, if you go outside, even though it looks overcast and you can't get the direct sun rays or it doesn't feel like you are, you could measure the light and it would still be exponentially brighter than it is in your home. So during the day, like I think people are like, oh, it's rainy or whatever. Even on a rainy day, even when the sky looks dark, like the sun is so powerful that even though the UV might not be as high, you still are getting, earlier I talked about the neurotransmitter impacts and cortisol and our sex hormones. You're still going to get the light information that your body needs on a cloudy day. Even though it's not like it's fun, like I also want it to be sunny and like warm and all of that. I also love that. But I think it's
Yeah.
important to not like waste the stormy days or the overcast days. As you know, I'm just like really big on like the nature is always giving us something, even if it's not our favorite thing ever. There's always some kind of medicine out there. And yeah, it's been so cold here that now I think it's like in the 40s and it feels like it's like summertime. It's been so cold. How cold is it?
Right.
Are you in California?
Yeah, I'm in it's like northern California, but not super north. So we
Gotcha.
do get cold here. Like overnight lately, it's been getting to like 28 degrees, and we wake up to like icy cars and stuff.
Oh
But
wow.
yeah, and sometimes we get snow, but it's been a very dry winter. We haven't gotten much rain, but the rain is supposedly coming tomorrow. So that's great
Do you
because,
you want it to come probably because it's been so dry?
yeah, yeah, we're like, the grass is starting to die again. Now we have to buy the cows. But yeah, it's definitely we want the rain. Sometimes we get snow here where we are, but not really that much. But yeah,
That's
we
so interesting. I
definitely
didn't know
don't.
that.
Yeah, and we definitely
Cool.
don't shy away from obviously kids love snow. They don't ever think that it's cold, right? They're like, "What do you mean cold?" And their like lips are purple.
Yeah. Yeah,
No, but
that's
I
I
love
guess
that thing. No, I
Sorry,
love
go
that
ahead.
thing that you said about like when like yeah, even I in the beginning of my like clean lifestyle journey, I was also like that, like sound the alarms, like like stress out over every single thing, and then we like reel back in, like okay, I'm gonna like pull myself back and not stress as much, because stress is definitely also like probably worse than whatever we're trying to avoid, right? Like sometimes
Yeah.
you just have to breathe and relax, because
Oh,
we
totally.
can't control everything around us.
Well, it reminds me of like, everybody's heard of the placebo effect. And then also, like in scientific studies, they control for it, which, what does that mean? That means that what you think is going to happen, like,
Mm-hmm.
changes what your body's doing, which is interesting to think about when you're. It's why I personally like don't watch the news, and just like there's certain things I don't do because I know that if I get into that, if I'm constantly fearing things or afraid or in just like a lower vibrational state because I'm on alert,
Yep.
like it changes you. So I just that's there is definitely a fine line between, you know, you want to learn more about light and stuff, and like I also like I fully have I'm fully in that world, and I don't do as much of the reading because I feel like I've kind of, developed a good enough understanding to where I will take breaks from kind of ingesting information because sometimes it's just a lot. Or you're like, I don't know, I think I grasp enough to implement this in my life. And so, but yeah, there's a fine line between like just completely putting yourself in like just this fight or flight all the time.
Yep.
And then also
Yeah.
just informing yourself, because it's like I love to learn, but also don't let it. Just remember, like you said earlier, like you said there's a practitioner that says this, but like you're your home. You are like you're in control of it, even though there's insanity happening around us. Like try to always be able to like come back to some kind of anchor within yourself that can just keep you, rooted and not super stressy, because I don't know, social media can be like that for me. I feel like nowadays I don't do much scrolling because it's just a mixed bag. Sometimes it's amazing. The algorithm gives me fun stuff, and sometimes I'm like, I think I need to unfollow people because it's just too much. Just like it can get real negative, or even, and this is just the nature of, I guess, the wellness world in 2025. But some people are so passionately trying to educate on things that are harming us. I definitely have been in this category before, if I'm being honest, because you learn something like BPA is bad or whatever it is, right? And then you're like, I got to tell people. But then if you're scrolling and you're getting 200 accounts that are like, glyphosate's bad, BPA is bad, then you're like, well, I'm going to die before the day's over because. So I try.
Right.
It's hard. I know that it's hard. I'm fully in the space of like, I want people to understand what they're doing to their body, but at the same time, I don't know, just always give yourself permission, I guess, to check out a little bit from social media if you're feeling overwhelmed, because I think that all you need is the truth. And I believe the truth is that nature gives us most of what we need, if not all of what we need. Maybe I just don't understand
Yeah.
it well enough, but it's like there's so much that's very simple. So just focus on those things. And you probably don't need that $500 thing that somebody is telling you have to have for whatever. Like, chances are pretty
Right.
good that you could improve your health in the way you want to by focusing on like going outside and like kind of, we're talking about earlier, like people get kind of triggered by stuff. It's like I have friends that will sit and read a book or watch a show for hours, right? and
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll tell me that like they don't have time to lay out or do a cold, shower or bath or just all the stuff I do. They're like, well, I don't have time to do that. And it's like, well, it's very interesting because I think you do. You just prioritize your life differently than I do. And again, people
Yeah.
hate hearing that because they're like, I have to have my time to read my book. I'm like, I don't think your biology cares as much about the book as it does about all the other things. And I do think it's important to like do what you love and protect that time. I also think that's medicine, but I think people get a little too caught up in the entertainment part of, they think that's their de-stressing. And it's like, maybe you just need an hour of that, not 4 hours of that. And then
Yeah.
like you'd feel better if you just spent 30 minutes of that, like, doing something that actually is going to move the needle on you feeling better, like light or sauna or exercise, whatever your thing is, yoga. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I know. You're right. People, when they binge, watch the 8 seasons of whatever. It's
yeah.
like, how do you do that? And then you say you have no time to go outside. Like, really?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, you'll know this. I think like, cause you follow my account and I just post about being outside all the time. And then I'll have people and friends that are like, well, I wish I had the time to do that. And some people, there's a few people where it doesn't, like there's one person I'm thinking of that I'm like, they are living an insanely busy life. And I think they genuinely are like, I would love to be doing that. But then there's some people that I'm like, I know what you do with your free time. And it's just, yeah. And I don't
Yeah.
like telling people what to do. But when they throw a stone at me, then sometimes I do get defensive. And I'm like, no, I prioritize my time differently than you. Like, different things to me are important than they are to you. And so people will
Exactly.
be like, I want to be healthy or strong or whatever the thing is. And I'm like, I don't know if you really want that, because to have that, you would be changing a lot of the things that you do every day. And I don't think you're willing to give those things up, And I don't do any
Yeah.
coaching right now. So I don't have that conversation very often. It just happens in my DMs sometimes. But I don't know how you handle stuff like that, but there's a part of me that's like, you can actually do whatever you want. I'm just going to show you what I'm doing. And if you can glean anything positive, then that's amazing. But I don't have the thing in me that wants to tell people what to do. I really don't like doing it. It never feels good. I kind of just like to always just be like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because I don't like being told what to do. So I try to not be a hypocrite that way.
And I think the most important thing is, though, even if, like, either if you're a health coach or a practitioner, it's like, we can only do so much for the client, for that person, but they have to do the work. It's like, I can tell you all the things that I know that might help you move the needle, but if you're not going to do the work, I can't help you.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I'm not going to be I'm not here to heal your body. Your body heals itself. So if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing to support it, you're not going to go anywhere. So that's
Yeah.
really, like, I think people just need to take back that responsibility for themselves, for their health. Like, you can't, give up that power to someone else, because they really can't do the work for you. Only you can. And
Yeah.
that's where the healing happens and the growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're so right. Something that I used to hear about healing that I didn't, I don't know. I don't know if you can relate to this, but like sometimes you hear something, maybe it's a phrase or a quote, and you just like never really get it. You're like, I don't get it. Like, I know that it's probably right or true or wise, but something that I remember hearing is probably from like Zach Bush or somebody, like maybe 10 years ago, and he still talks about this. Most, like, something to the effect of like, people don't heal because of these emotional traumas or problems or things they're hanging on to. And I remember being like, well, that's not true, because it's all physical and it's all about food and supplements and all of this. And I remember just being like, I don't get what that means, or like, maybe I wasn't seeing examples of it around me, so I just I didn't get it. And then within the last like couple weeks, like, something has happened where there's a handful of people that I'm connected to on social media, and I think that they have, like, they're like old Jess. They have issues that they just can't figure out, and they're stuck, and
Hmm.
they're sick, or their body is just giving them these signals, they don't know, whatever it is. And I can very clearly see, just based on very limited even information about them, that they don't believe in themselves, and they're not very confident, which I know that you have to cultivate confidence, so I'm not even saying like, yeah, get confident. But and a lot of it, I think, it started because people will respond to like my cold plunge content, and they'll say things like, I could never do that, or wow, I wish I was that strong, or whatever they even make up about what's going on. But yeah, and then I feel like it finally clicked for me, where like, I feel better than I did 5 years ago when I would have said I was sick or whatever. And I do think I like haven't made the connection until recently. So And then I haven't even said it out loud to anybody until now. I'm just like, I think a big part of, like, I think I figured out what that means is like part of the emotional stuff is not letting people in your life, whether it's family, friends, or whoever it is. A lot of people, myself included, have people in their life where like their opinions really weigh you down and they
Mm-hmm.
really hold you back from living the life you want to live. That has happened to me multiple times in my life, and it's still something that I deal with or try to empower myself through, I should say. And like when you're letting those people slow you down, I think it keeps you sick. So like the
Yeah.
more confident you can get, the more resilient you can get. I've found a way to cultivate it just through like the kind of stuff I do. I'm not saying it's the only way, but like through the sunlight time, it's kind of like a meditation for me. And then the cold plunging in the sauna, it's just all very like, I don't know. I do think I'm building this confidence engine, so to speak. And I think it has helped me like heal physical symptoms that I don't think I would have ever thought, oh, this is connected to the fact that I let people's opinions like hold me back. But I just recently been
Yeah.
like, I just think that that's connected, which is kind of crazy. Like, cause like I said, I didn't understand that for a long time, but like people just think self belief is separate, is like a personality trait and maybe not connected to your body being healthy and vital. But gosh, you look into any kind of like Chinese medicine or anything, it's like it's very clear that many other cultures in the world connect like your spirit energy and all and your emotional body. All these things are very much connected. We hold emotions in our organs, all these things, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody listens to this and they're like, oh yeah, I hate my boss and I got to see him every day and I'm in a bad mood every day. Like I would just say like, it probably matters. Like do something about it, whatever that is, whether it's, I mean, I personally have quit jobs before, so I'm not telling you to do that, but I'm just saying like, make the change. Like life is short. We're only here for a freaking second. So like, that's been my life story. That's a whole nother podcast, but like, I've quit jobs because I was not contributing to something I was proud of. Like there was poor like company culture and there was like corruption happening and I just felt bad about doing it. And I've walked out of jobs, you know, I'm going to make myself sound like a real rebel. Hey, I'm in the right place though. Right? I'm a real like
Yeah.
rebel, wellness rebel for sure. But again, it's all about what you prioritize. And so if your health is really important to you, I'm just rambling on about this just to say that that's something I would not have thought mattered for my health. But now it's very clear to me that like making those choices in life that keep you happy, even if you're disappointing other people, even though other people have their opinions about you or whatever, like being able to stand behind yourself and believe in yourself, it just does seem connected to me at this point. So kind of crazy.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And again, you got to be like accountable, which is like, it's painful stuff. Like, I guess sometimes it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to look in the mirror and be like, wow, I've just been complaining about this for too long and I'm not doing anything about it. And I just keep complaining about it. You know, you get like tired of your own stuff. And I know that it's hard to own up to that. But I mean, just know there's other people that do the same stuff and we all have stuff to own up to. So,
Right? Yeah. We all have our own baggages, and it's really just
yeah.
up to you when you want to deal with it. And totally, that can like, hold you back from true healing because, if we're like this whole being, it's like our body is not separate. Like, our emotions, our physical self, everything are all connected, and you can't compartmentalize that. And yeah, totally. Like, if someone is stressing you out every day, duh. Right? It's
I
like,
don't.
if
It
you
took me so long to learn that. I'm a little frustrated with myself. I lost a lot of years to that, but I hope that even if one person hears that and they like just, I am accelerating that path for them. I don't know. That feels good because it's just,
right.
I don't know. Yeah. Um.
Well, I
I
just
feel
feel
like
like too, we grew up in kind of like this, like, especially with, I think, with girls and women. I don't know if for boys and men if that's applicable, but it's like that
yep.
people pleaser. Like, we're just like, oh, I'm here. Like, I have good grades because I'm trying to please my parents. Like, like, and it goes on and on until we're older, and then it's hard to put down the boundaries. And yeah, that will make you sick. Saying yes to everybody.
You're so right. I'm trying. Like it's so. I'm trying to think of. That makes me feel so many things. So I've said this before. to somebody somewhere. But I know that like I've made this connection before where exactly what you just said, like we go to school. I just went to, my brother and I went to just like normal public school in Florida and then Texas. And like, that's what school is you listen to the teacher and you respect authority and you don't speak out of turn. And you, like you said, you get certain grades, you hit certain marks. In sports, it's similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's things that are expected of you. And so I remember at one point, maybe in my early 20s, where I was like, why is it so hard to feel confident in who I am, even though I know I'm a good person and I'm doing good work and all these things? It was like so hard. I just got so caught up in like just doubting myself or whatever. And it's like, oh, it's because my entire life has been that, like trying to, like you said, please other people and make sure I'm checking other boxes to other people, while meanwhile I'm really suppressing a lot of my own needs and creative ideas and stuff. And so if you get into some kind of work like Fatima or I do, and you're like, you know, expressing yourself and helping and really, especially just being in a little silo of wellness that's not mainstream, if it feels hard, I just think it's because we're finally doing what would have not been acceptable in school. And it is cool. I think it's great work and I'm very proud of what I do and like what you do. Like I couldn't be more proud, but it definitely for me has come with like an emotional challenge, I guess I would describe it as. And sometimes it's just it only exists right here, but it's like I know when people are going to judge me. I know when people are going to say this or that or whatever. I just feel like I know it's like a paranoia almost because you know, yeah, just schooling has a downside, I guess. And that's one of them is like, especially if you, like I said, kind of blossom into somebody that's creative or trying to do something different. Maybe just be patient with yourself if you're going through that. Cause it took me many years to finally be like, just expect that people are not going to really know what to do with you. Just don't expect that from them. And then you'll meet random people who totally get what you're doing and totally celebrate it. And like, they might not be your family or your friends or the people that you really want the approval from, but that's okay. Cause like, you can't change, not the first person to say that, but you can't change people. You can't change their prejudices or just like what they think is how somebody should live life. So, it's funny how having your own business really has been like this growth container for me. It's just so much emotional. It's very emotionally, I don't know, taxing sometimes because you just learn a lot about yourself and you learn about what you need to get over, what you need to work
Yeah.
on. So it's all good though. I mean, I know every like job has its stuff. I would gladly take this. So yeah. How do you feel about that?
No, I love that. No, I totally agree with you. It's, you know, everything has its challenges and we just have to learn how to, it's like, it's really like having a family, creating a business, growing a business. There's all learning lessons and we also learn so much about ourselves and it's like part of the healing process. You like peel off layers that is not serving you anymore and then learning new things, right? It's like we can't just hang on to old patterns that kept us, I don't know, like small or like kept you where you were. And I actually had another guest before and he said if we're not able to deal with like the stuck emotions, the stuck traumas and all that stuff and you're not living in alignment, that will also be is one factor of holding you back from total healing. Like you have to live in your truth, in alignment. And at that point, when you learn that, yeah, it's hard. There will be hard conversations. There, hard things that you have to deal with. But if
Yeah.
you really want to get better, if you want to get to the other side, you have to do some hard things. And that's just how life is.
Yeah, it feels so true. I'm like laughing to my, I ran from I have a good friend that I went to college with and she's a yoga teacher. And she told me one time, this was like at my height of like CrossFit workouts. I was doing like 2 days and stuff. And I was going through some intense life stuff. And she was like, Jess, you do know that you can't like outrun like how you feel. And I was like, why not? It's just like I was so trying to avoid feeling sad or grief or
Mm-hmm.
whatever I was feeling, and so it's funny how long it takes us to learn stuff, and maybe we still need the reminders, but that's so interesting that your guest said that, because that feels so true, and it's definitely something that I did not accept as true for a while, because I did think you could kind of outrun your problems, but it's like, no, I
Yeah.
mean, they'll catch up to you eventually, and or you'll suppress them in your organs and body, and then it'll manifest as illness, which is like, that was a wake up call for me. It's like, oh crap, okay, then I'll deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like, yeah, it's like they say like the only way is through, right? Like there's no shortcuts. You have to go through the whole thing, challenges and whatnot. And man, I had a thought in my head and I forgot. I forgot
I
what.
know
Okay.
we're teaming
Yeah,
to
and
the same
that's
story. Okay, go
no,
ahead.
that's why I noted like what I've noticed is like there's so many ways, for people to numb their feelings and their emotions, right? To like cuz they don't want to deal with it. But then eventually it's like you have to deal with, when are you going to deal with it, right? It's like that's why they say people that get cancer and then they might do chemo or whatever and they go into remission, but if they're not dealing with the emotional stuff, it will always come back because it's like they said, the body keeps the score, right? Like
So yeah,
it's like German new medicine is the same thing, right? The same
yep,
concept. There's
yep.
a whatever trauma is like manifest in whatever part of your body. Like we're energetic beings.
Mm-hmm.
Anything emotional will always be present to whatever you're trying to overcome. So sometimes, like, if you think about it now, it's like, oh, I'm doing all these candida cleanses, parasite cleanses, and all these things, hoping something from the outside is going to fix me. But when really what we need to do is look within and start from there instead of external things.
It's so true. I don't know. I'm just like nodding. Like that's definitely it. I can tell you, I've done the cleanses and stuff, and you probably have to. It's just like, I'm not saying there's not a place for them and all of that, but it's like we're talking about like what's the foundational. Well, your emotional health is definitely foundational. So there's um, it's funny. I want to call her a friend, but we've never met in person, but I'm taking a course from her, and she's a co-founder with her husband of this brand called Super Feast that I share about, and they make tonic herbs and mushrooms. And I'm taking this course from her, and I do some of her yoga classes. And she recently, in one of the yoga classes, she said in the beginning of the class that it's like something like, first time I did this practice, it like almost broke me, and I was like, okay, well, here we go, like what's this gonna be like? And then at the end, it was challenging, but I like survived it. And so, at the end of it, I was like, I was feeling good, and also just like, processing. And she, at the very end, it was like, if you cried, well, it's better out than in. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's it. That's like, I think there's definitely, whether you don't allow yourself to cry or you're not in an environment where crying is okay, like either one of those probably, like people probably don't want to bust out crying in a yoga class. Maybe you would suppress it because you're like, I don't want to like put this on other people, but like it's true to like, if you can just really let yourself feel it, and or create some kind of small space in your day where you like can feel those things. Because if you don't, it's got to go somewhere. Like you said, we're energetic, and so you're going to store these things somewhere. And so I don't know. It feels so funny that just my athletic upbringing, I feel like there was never any talk about any of this. And then kind of as I became a little more hippie, and I guess you can call it woo woo or whatever, it just feels natural and good to me. I don't really label it. I mean, I definitely call myself a hippie, but now I'm just like, why would I think that any of these things are separate? Like, it's so cool too that the body is so connected. I just continue to like marvel at that. It's very cool. So, um, yeah, we started
They
at
do say, go ahead.
what? I was gonna say we
I
started
said,
talking about light. Now we're talking about like existence.
No, but they do say like that's why it's called emotion. It's like the word motion is literally there. You have to let it move through so that it
Man, I
doesn't
never
get
heard
stuck,
that.
right?
Wow, that's good. Yeah, I know. It's
Yeah,
funny
you
how
have to let
it's
it.
literally it's right in the name, and we still can't even get it.
Yeah, yeah. But well, we definitely need to have a part two
Heck
because
yeah, anytime.
yeah, yeah, we'll just have to end it at this, on this note today. I need to do some farm chores before the rain. But
You
that
cut out.
was
You cut
that
out
was
for a second. I heard.
oh yeah, I know. I
Okay,
saw
you're
that.
back.
My internet's just sometimes the internet's slow, but it records it
Oh, it's okay.
hopefully. But yeah, let's
Yeah,
definitely do part 2 and thank you so much for joining me
you're so welcome.
today. And we're going to oh wait, before we go, remind
Yep.
everyone where they can find you or connect with you if they want to.
Sure. I'm most active on Instagram, so my handle is at feelmoregooder, just like it sounds. I have a website, feelmoregooder.com. TikTok is a lot of just Instagram put on TikTok, but if you're more active on that platform, you'll see my content over there. What else? That's pretty much Instagram is the best place to connect. And I love, if anything that I said today resonated, I really do enjoy like connecting with other people that think similarly, because I just think we got to keep growing this like squad of whatever we are, just goodness seekers, I guess.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jess, for joining us today. And if you're still here till the end, stay rebellious.
Woo!
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please click the subscribe button, share it with others, post about it in social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me or suggest topics, you can follow me on Instagram at Fatima Pagtakan or at The Wellness Rebel Show. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.